All right, Tim, you've had 16 days. 16. We're on the downhill slide of this now. Hopefully you know it. Here we go. Middle of the night.
I knew it on day 3. I forgot it.
Come on. No, we're not going to do that gimmick. All 31. Anyway, he's Tim. I'm Ronnie. All the good names are taken. Podcast. 31 days, day 16. Today we're talking Ravenous.
We just stopped that gimmick on day 16. Make a note.
Make a note. We're not going to listen to this anymore. Yesterday we sang Bon Jovi. Let me turn that all the way down. Tim, how's it going? Halfway through October.
My October is going great. It's finally cooled down after the hottest summer in recorded history. So
it's 100 degrees every day. Letting you behind the curtain, we filmed 42 episodes today, and this is our 42nd fake conversation. So head on over to ATG&AD Podcast at gmail.com. Also, you can give us a thank you and hit thank you and donate $1.99 or $2.99 or $100, whatever you want to do. Support the channel.
It's gonna be day 16, and it's gonna be 105 degrees in October, and I said that shit.
It's the hottest weather ever. So we're talking about Ravenous. Now, had you seen this movie before this? It's
Ronnie,
not really a horror movie.
Ronnie, okay, it's not a horror movie. I have never seen it. Ronnie, is this a great movie?
This is an awesome movie.
Oh my God.
Like, an awesome movie.
I start watching it, and usually I'm not the horror guy. We've established that a dozen times by now. So I'm like, all right, let me get this crappy backstory. All we're going to talk about is how these people died. Like, that we're going to rank the deaths, maybe, unless they weren't even enough to talk about whatever. Talk about the monsters. This was like, I was into it.
Yes,
like, this was legit, and I didn't look into it after the fact or anything. But was this like well received?
It didn't make any money, but it was well received. And it is a horror movie because 31 Days official rules going on year 7 or 8 now.
If IMDb says horror, it's in.
There you go. Adventure, drama, horror. So there you go.
I'm just going to say it. The setting time-wise, like against the backdrop of the Old West and the Mexican-American War was... like, I was immediately like, okay, this is original and different. I mean, they took time. I'm not saying the budget was huge, but they took time to make everything feel like it's a timepiece. Like, the music was good. The costumes were good. I was impressed from the get-go. There's only got one hang up, and we'll get to that later.
Blake always makes fun of me because I always talk about how I enjoy when movies are beautiful, and the background shots of this entire movie are beautiful. Mountains,
fantastic.
Desert, forest. It's great.
Everything
about this movie is great.
Do you know the budget for this movie?
I can find it out real quick.
So the reason I ask is because you're either in this makeshift camp type place or outdoors. Like, no money was required. You got to pay the composer and the costume guy and some other crap. But I mean, you're not paying for these big sets.
So the budget was $12 million. And here's where it happens. It only grossed $2 million in North America.
That's a shame.
It is. And I remember seeing the trailer for this movie because that was during my time of going to see at least 2 to 3 movies a weekend. And the trailer wasn't all that great. I remember the trailer being what's his name? Will something. No, Neil McDonough screaming in the water, all jacked up. I remember David Arquette giggling, and
terrible to put him in your trailer. There's no way in a trailer you could portray what's going to happen. There's no way you could get across what type of movie it is.
No, in the trailer they can't go. We have people that eat human flesh and become what the Native Americans call Wendigos. So they need more human flesh because they're becoming super strong and they crave the strength from your soul. And it's set into the backdrop of isolation at this fort that nobody ever goes to.
But hold on, because the second half of the movie is reverse Point Break, but for people who eat other people.
Exactly. It's like a Twilight Zone episode. Without a doubt, Tim, my favorite part of this movie are the flashback scenes. So right off the bat, we've got Captain John Boyd, who's played by Guy Pearce. Guy Pearce, great actor.
Great job in this movie.
Really should have a beard all the time, because when he shaves his face, he looks weird. Guy Pearce is great.
Mm-hmm.
At the very beginning of it, he's being honored with a medal, and he's sitting there while everybody's eating in this rare piece of meat, and he's thinking back in his head what actually happened, where he just drops and pretends to be dead, and the Spanish soldiers load him up with the rest of the dead bodies. And then it goes to John Spencer, who's great in this movie, who's telling him, you're not a hero, but since you took the whole enemy base, we can't kill you in front of everybody. I just want you to go as far away as I can. So they're banishing him off to an outpost that's never used.
He's a coward, but he woke up and, grew a pair after when they were least expected it. So he was able to take this outpost because he caught him completely off guard.
But you say he grew a pair. What happened is he's laying underneath these dead bodies, and the blood of all these people are running inside of his mouth, and he's swallowing it. And then later in the movie, we find out that the blood and the flesh of other humans, if you eat it, you get superhuman strength. Right. So he's able to pull himself out. And when we finally see that scene, he slips over and he just breaks that guy's neck like it's not, boom, like this. And then he just takes the whole outpost, and as the American soldiers roll in. And that's the theme of this movie, is he's dealing with being a coward and also dealing with something happened with him having to swallow all that blood, that now he doesn't want to eat normal food. So he's throwing up at the sight of normal food. Mix that in with them sending him to this outpost with all of these strange people that are there. And then this guy, Robert Carlyle, Colonel Ives, showing up out of nowhere, straight from the Donner Party, and the story he's got. And it's almost like a Twilight episode, the way, like Tim said, they 180 this thing in the middle of it. And now Guy Pearce is the weirdo, and Robert Carlyle is the distinguished officer.
Okay, so no, hold on. So when you say Robert Carlyle, he's the original Wendigo, right?
Yeah, he's the guy that shows up all with the story, Colonel Ives.
So you have the first part of this movie where he gets, the guy's like, you're not a hero. He gets exiled to basically the Siberia of the Old West. This dude shows up. He tells this story about there's this, they were stranded. His party got lost in the woods. There's this crazy captain. Well, come to find out, it's all him. And he gets them out there, because he needs more people to eat. Like he's craving it. After Captain Boyd, he's forced to eat someone to survive.
Yeah, you're all over the place.
No. I'm fast forwarding to, there's a split between, there's this like outdoor adventure thing where you meet everybody from the camp, and it's Captain Boyd, and oh God, twist, this was really the bad guy, to all of a sudden this bad guy's a super respected dude and Boyd's the bad guy. And that's like most of the movie. And I never saw that coming. I thought the whole movie was going to be them tracking each other in the woods, and they totally turned that on its head. And it's just Boyd having to try to deal with, holy crap, I really like to eat people, but I do not want to do it.
So, like Tim said, this guy shows up and's got this horror story about how they run out of food and started eating each other. And, he doesn't lie. He goes, I partook and then I escaped before they ate me. And like Tim said, it's all a lie. He lured them out there to the cave, and they quickly find out that he eat everybody. He's telling lies. Meanwhile, he's freaking out. He starts killing everybody. And it ends up with Captain Boyd has a choice. Fight him. After he shoots him point blank in the shoulder, and the guy gets right back up like he's Jason Voorhees. So like we said, Guy Pearce is a coward. Instead of fighting him, he just jumps off. I don't think he knew he was going to live. I think he was jumping to just avoid being killed. And if he it was like the scene from First Blood. It's like
tell me what to do.
It's a 4-mile drop all the way down. And he's laying there with that other guy, Neil McDonough, I think's his name. Yeah. Neil McDonough's body. And Neil McDonough's still alive after the fall, too, because he tries to strangle him for whatever reason. And he's laying there dead, and he's got a bone coming out of his leg. And eventually he starts to eat Neil McDonough. And all of a sudden his leg's healed. And he goes back to the camp, and everybody wants to know where he's been. And here comes the new leader, and it turns out it's the weirdo. It's Colonel Ives. And like Tim said,
who instead of being a weirdo is now the coolest guy in the world. Yes. Like, that dude is super cool through the rest of the movie. Like, it's amazing. Like, he got cleaned up, and I'm like, God. In horror movies, it's usually you have a clear-cut protagonist and an antagonist. And it's like that here. But God, it's hard to hate him. Like, you get it. He was dying. He had tuberculosis. And he realized, hey, if I do this, I'm not only going to stay alive, I'm going to be more physically fit and more healthy than anybody else.
Yeah,
his outlook on things is pragmatic, I guess.
The Native Americans in this movie spot what he is right away. The minute he says he ate human flesh, they're like, Wendigo.
Right.
Wendigo. So later on, when Ives comes back as a clean-cut officer, which leads to a great discussion. Was he always Colonel Ives, or did he take Colonel Ives' name and identity in the Army? So, I thought for a second he was going to play around with Boyd longer, but he didn't. I mean, he didn't even have a scar from getting shot. This is how powerful eating human flesh is in this story. Yeah. So when he finally gets outside with him, he goes, I'm going to tell you about how all this happened. I had tuberculosis. I had the worst headaches you could ever have. I was going to die. Suicidal thoughts.
Depression.
As I'm going to try to find treatment, I run into a Native American who tells me the healing power of eating human flesh and how you can steal their strength by eating them. And he goes, so I did it. And I felt better. And I felt better. And I kept doing it. And I kept doing it. And I kept doing it. And he goes, you know about it because you've done it too. He goes, I can't believe you couldn't finish off, what was his name? What was his real name in the movie? Private Reich. He goes, he was tough, but you have to be when you're a soldier. He goes, I would have finished him, and I did.
So dude, that was the scene where I was like, well, this guy's cool as hell. Like, I'm not going to like Captain Boyd more than I like this guy already. Like, that solidified it.
The three biggest things about this movie for me are the music that I think is somehow so creepy. I don't even know, Tim, you're the musician. I don't even know what instrument is making that music at the very beginning of this movie, but it's so old-time creepy that it fits this movie perfectly.
It's not on the level of like, oh, brother, where art thou? But if it did that, then it would overshadow the entire movie because then it would be too good. Like, it's the only time I had a problem with the music is when the priest dude, like the Hispanic priest guy, was running through the woods and it got silly. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
And all of a sudden it's like, and he's chasing it through the woods. And I was like, whoa, is this supposed to be funny? Like, it was the only time that this movie took me out of the moment. It's not a perfect movie because of that right there. That's the only thing that's holding it back.
Yeah, Jeremy Davies is awful in everything he does. I mean, I don't even know what he's been in lately. I just hate him from Private Ryan.
He licked me.
I hate him from this movie because he just mumbles. Does he still do the gimmick where he mumbles in every movie? I don't know. And you're absolutely right. I wouldn't have brought this up, but you're right. This movie is very eerie, except for the part where Colonel Ives, lures him into the trap. He kills Colonel Hart immediately. He kills the scout immediately, and then he toys with the priest because the gun is not loaded, and that's when they play like the circus type music.
It's weird. Like, it's a huge misfire.
And then they find his body up there, and he's ripped his guts out. So it ended horribly. So
who did he kill first?
He killed it's Jeffrey Jones. It's the pedophile. He's the principal.
Yeah.
He's the principal from Ferris Bueller.
Right. Yeah. How did he come back?
Just in case you didn't think this movie had enough layers, there's a twist at the end of the movie because Colonel Hart shows back up. And what happened is he is now a cannibal too. He's partnered with Colonel Ives because Colonel Ives is trying to get a group of people together so he can have friends. He tells Boyd that he was laying there and he was drowning in darkness and there was nothing. And then all of a sudden he was back and he was being fed blood by Colonel Ives. So Ives fed him blood and human flesh and brought him back to life so he could go back to that outpost with him and try to get Boyd to join up with them.
How much does Ives want Boyd to be his best friend?
Well, he definitely wants him to be his best friend. He wants him to be his brother.
Ives, Boyd, Swayze, Keanu Reeves. What duo's better? What's the cooler duo?
Swayze, Keanu Reeves.
Is it close?
No, it's not even close. But it is a good analogy because he does want him.
If you haven't watched Ravenous, you need to watch it and make that decision for yourself. Because I think Ives and Boyd, it's so like God, I can't believe I'm saying this on a 31 Days of Horror review. Did it get uncomfortable to you sometimes?
Like they were in love?
Yeah.
Like Ives was in love with him.
Like just the weird, we're really close to staring at each other for a super long period of time.
I think Ives has been alone. I think Ives has been alone so long that to finally run into somebody else that eats human flesh, he feels like he actually has somebody he can rely on and relate to. When he knew exactly what Boyd was talking about when Boyd asked him, when you ate that, did you feel different? And he goes, different how? And he goes, did you feel stronger? At that moment, Ives knew that this guy has eaten human flesh before, and he wants to know if it's always like that. Him and Colonel Hart, Ives fatally stabs Boyd, and he's like, you better eat or you're going to die. And he sits there and bleeds out almost to the point of dying while they're eating stew made out of a human body with potatoes and vegetables and onions. And finally he starts to eat and he's healed. So you have 3 cannibals, and Ives explains the plan. He goes, it's manifest destiny, westward expansion. When the winter's over, they're going to come running this way looking to find gold and change their lives. We're not going to kill them all. We're going to kill a few of them, though, and we're going to continue to get stronger. He goes, we can't take in a lot of people. We want to take you. It's a really good movie.
We also need to talk about the elephant in the room. David Arquette is in this movie.
Playing David Arquette.
David Arquette. What year did this movie come out? 90?
99.
99?
99.
So David Arquette's already, when did he go from this guy might be a really big time celebrity till everyone's like, no, we can't let this guy start being in everything. He sucks. What year was the fall of David Arquette? When was he in that WCW movie, Ready to Rumble?
2000.
Okay, so this has happened. It's already happened.
Well, it's 99 when this movie came out, so this is right before. He's still riding high off of Scream in this. So.
I cannot stand a stoner idiot like bro type stereotype in a movie. Like there's places for them, but when they're there just for a specific type of comic relief or just to be dumb, I can't stand him. And he is in this movie and it's terrible.
I never knew you had this hatred for David Arquette.
David Arquette is horrible. He's horrible.
He literally has like 4 minutes of screen time.
I have hated him since he won the WCW Heavyweight Championship. He had no business doing that, and he's a wrestling fan, Ronnie. He knows he knows he was destroying the business when he did that. If Jim Cornette would have called me and said, I will pay you $2,000 to kill David Arquette, I would have done it. as a, I don't know, 17-year-old, 18-year-old back when this happened.
This has gone off the rails. Wrap up what you want to talk about with Ravenous so we can get the hell out of here.
Ravenous was an extreme, after all the stuff this is day 16. After all the horror movie garbage I've had to sift through, this was fantastic. This Ravenous is a good movie. If you haven't seen Ravenous, you need to watch it. It's great. I'm going to give this movie a 7.5. Only because it has David Arquette. Only because once it transitions from, we're helping this guy track, and all of a sudden he's killing everybody in the woods to, hey, I'm just going to try to recruit you for the next half of the movie. That second half of the movie didn't have to be that long.
It's true.
This is kind of a long movie.
One of my notes was this movie's too long.
It's 140 minutes. I mean, it's legit long.
You could have wrapped this movie up, and movies have to be at least 90 minutes, but you could have wrapped this movie up in 80 minutes and it would have been it wouldn't have had any dragging parts. We didn't need,
if you trim the fat, you trim the fat, this is a 9.9.
We didn't need Jeffrey Jones talking about how great and powerful it is to now be a Wendigo, only for 3 minutes later to say, please kill me.
Yes.
Because I can't stand the nightmares. That was filler. The fight that they have, the fight that takes place after they find out that he's the killer, and then the fight that Boyd and Ives have at the end of it. With Boyd leading him in there to the bear trap and making both of them fall in the bear trap. And Ives is like, very clever. But if you die before me, I'm eating you. But if I die before you, will you eat me?
Okay, I have a question. As far as horror movie endings go, and we got to say it's a horror movie because it's listed as that on the IMDb.
It's not even in the top 50.
Where the bad guy gets killed. This is not in your top 50. No, where the bad guy is dying. They both get caught in the bear trap.
Yeah.
And the bad guy and the good guy are it's not like the physical face-off is over. Now it's a philosophical morality face-off. Dude, that was great. That was fantastic.
It's a really good movie, and you got to mix some of these good movies in, to be able to survive the month. So hit us in the comments below. What is your score? What is your score for Ravenous? What do you what are the best parts of Ravenous? What are the worst parts of Ravenous? What do you agree with what we said? Do you think Tim's right? Do you think David Arquette killed the business by taking the WCW title?
If you could eat anyone in the world, who would you eat and why?
Nobody.
You were listing things for talk about in the comments. So I thought I'd add to it.
Oh, you were telling people in the comments who would you eat?
Because you get their power, basically.
I'd eat He-Man.
Fair enough.
Day 16 in the books. atgnatpodcast@gmail.com if you want to contact us. Twitter, Instagram, Instagram, all that stuff. We'll see you guys tomorrow. See you, Tim.